Hey, welcome to Full Circle. I'm Anderson Cooper. Thanks very much for joining us here in our newsroom here in New York. This isn't just a program, it's a conversation between me and you. So as always, weigh in with your thoughts and questions in the comment section. If you ever want to quiet those comments, and frankly, who doesn't sometimes, just swipe to the right. The deadline for the Trump administration to reunite all immigrant children with their parents just passed minutes ago. The question is, did they meet the deadline? You may not like the answer. And then there's this from my good friend Andy Cohen. Take a look. What the heck was going on with that? Andy got dragged on stage at a Britney Spears concert. The video went viral. The question remains, did Britney Spears actually know who she was dealing with? I'll talk to Andy, get his take on that in the Full Circle interview. Plus the 180, your chance to ask me some questions. Today I'm going to tweak that and make it your chance to ask me and Andy some questions about us. What began as an ill-fated blind date that never happened has led to years of friendship. You can write your questions in the comments for us. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can. Also, we'll start with the first thing first. One of the top trending stories on Facebook right now, it's also about a yacht that set sail, which came as a surprise to the ship's captain. It belongs to the family of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. They have many, but the one in question, the Sequest, reportedly worth about $40 million, ended up adrift in Lake Erie. Now, according to police in Huron, in Ohio, vandals untied the vessel from the slip. The vessel sustained between $5,000 and $10,000 in bumps and scratches before the crew could regain control. Secretary DeVos can afford the repair. She's worth upwards, apparently, of $1 billion. Now, for the one thing you need to know, the most important story of the day, the one thing we don't want you to miss, the deadline's just passed for the government to comply with a federal court order to reunite hundreds of immigrant families who'd been separated at the southern border. We already know that more than 900 parents won't be reunited with their children for lots of reasons. The parents can't be found. Some have been deported already without their kids, and others have serious criminal records. That's all according to the government. Now, of course, it's been a highly emotional issue ever since President Trump announced his immigration policy. Video and audio of anguished parents and crying kids scattered around the country triggered a national outcry, forced the White House to stop the separations back in June, and that led to a federal judge imposing today's deadline to reunify the approximately 2,500 parents and kids separated at the southern border. Now, tonight, the government is saying it has largely met the court deadline, but it's framed the compliance really on its own terms. According to the court filing, 1,442 families have been reunited, and additionally, 378 have already been released under appropriate circumstances, says the government. But it also says 711 families were ineligible, either because they have red flags that prevent reunification or because they couldn't be located in time for the deadline. Now, on to the 5 things you want to know. You voted on your top 5 stories on this page. We spent the day digging into them. Here they are, your top 5, starting at number 5. The story you voted for, President Trump is doing his best to woo farmers today. Take a listen.
We just opened up Europe for you farmers. You're not going to be too angry with Trump, I can tell you. The farmers love me. They voted for me.
Well, and if you read what the president has been tweeting, farmers have been in the dumps for a while now. Are we just going to continue and let our farmers and country get ripped off, the president tweeted? If we looked at the facts, though, something doesn't add up. The U.S. agriculture industry exports more products than it imports. The current trade surplus, yes, surplus, was more than $20 billion in 2017. That could all change, of course, as a result of the administration's current tariff agenda. Experts say prices are falling and exports are dropping. In retaliation for U.S. tariffs, countries like China have added steep tariffs themselves. The upheaval has prompted the Trump administration to introduce an aid package, $12 billion, to help farmers and ranchers. Their supporters on Capitol Hill are fighting back, saying they want trade, not aid. At number 4 today, first for survivors of domestic violence, 10 days paid leave guaranteed by law in New Zealand. The New York Times is reporting that New Zealand's parliament passed the bill named the Domestic Violence Victims Protection Bill by a vote of 63 to 57. It gives domestic abuse survivors and those caring for young victims the days off in addition to their regular paid vacation. Survivors of domestic violence can also ask their employers for flexible working arrangements. A 2017 report in the New Zealander Herald said that the country had, quote, the worst rate of family and intimate partner violence in the world, estimating 525,000 New Zealanders are harmed every year. Opponents of the bill argue that extra leave would cost employers too much money. The legislation takes effect April 1st, 2019. At number 3 today, authorities in Greece say there are some serious indications of arson in the wildfires that we've been talking about that have ravaged the southern part of the country on Monday. As residents are returning to see what's left of their homes, in many cases, officials are admitting mistakes were made.
There was no evacuation order for Mati because the wind was coming from the east. Also, the main body of the fire brigade was in Queneta, 40 kilometers away. The fire was underestimated. And finally, all the above were mistakes that resulted in our mourning so many human lives.
Well, the village he's talking about is to the east of Athens. It's described as being wiped off the face of the earth by the fire. Extreme weather conditions are also being blamed for the disaster. When the more than 15 fires broke out, wind gusts were 75 miles per hour. Temperatures are topping 99 degrees Fahrenheit, unusually hot. The death toll remains at more than 80 right now. At number 2 today, the White House Correspondents Association and rival networks are standing behind CNN's Caitlin Collins after the White House banned her from a Rose Garden event. Collins was representing all the television networks as the pool reporter, as it's called, during a meeting between President Trump and Jean-Claude Juncker, the president of the European Commission, on Wednesday. As is customary, Collins asked the president questions. Take a look.
Did Michael Cohen betray you?
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. President, are you worried about what Michael Cohen is going to say to prosecutors?
Thank you, Caleb. Let's keep going.
Are you worried about what is on the other tapes, Mr. President?
Thank you all. Let's keep going.
Well, later in the day, Collins was told by Press Secretary Sarah Sanders and new Deputy Chief of Staff for Communications Bill Shine that she was, quote, disinvited from the Rose Garden event. Collins says Sanders and Shine told her that her questions earlier in the day were inappropriate and that she was shouting. Fox News President Jay Wallace released a statement saying, in part, we stand in strong solidarity with CNN for the right to full access for our journalists as part of a free and unfettered press. Wednesday's incident, just the latest attack by the president and the White House on CNN, of course, and the free press in this country. Now for the number one thing you voted to know more about today, and it's the reunification deadline for immigrant kids and their parents that I told you about at the top of the program. Now, you and I are completely in sync on this. This is the most important headline of the moment. If that hearing continues, we'll continue to keep an eye on it for any news. I want to move on to the Full Circle interview. Today, we're joined by my dear friend, who's no stranger to taking complicated positions with celebrities. You may know Andy Cohen from Bravo's Watch What Happens Live, or from the show we do together, AC Squared, where you go to ac2live.com to find out more on that. Like Britney Spears, maybe doesn't know Andy at all, even though I know Britney's been on a show. Tuesday night, when he got up on the stage at her New York City show, they shared these awkward moments together. Take a look. Good recovery there. Throw it to the crowd. I mean, you must know who he is, right? I mean, this is clearly some part of larger performance. We would be remiss to keep that from you. Cue the spanking. Please welcome Andy Cohen, Bravo's Andy Cohen. Andy, so did she not recognize you?
Well, we don't really know each other, Anderson. I mean,
she was on your show.
I have interviewed her. Did she know me? Did Trump collude with Russia? These are the questions, that we're looking at here.
Really? You're examining this at Bravo very carefully, are you?
Yes, we are. We're unpacking this, moment by moment. Look, Britney, she was famously shocked when she found out that Ryan Seacrest was straight, and she had known him for many years. So I can't predict what is going on in Britney's mind exactly, but what I would like to point out is that I don't need for Britney to know who I am. She's Britney, B-I-T-C-H, as the song goes. Like, she's on her own stratosphere. I'm a mortal. She's Britney. So, like, why would she really know who I am? It was funny that she said, like, oh, you know him. The crowd was reacting very strongly as though they knew who I was. So I think she was like, well, they know him,
right?
So give it up for him.
Right. Now, by the way, that harness, was that something you just happened to be wearing?
No, sweetie. They put that harness on me.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Crawl. There I am crawling. She was dragging me on a leash. I mean, it was very, there was a lot happening there.
There's a lot going on.
By the way, tonight talking about this too, or just Facebook?
Just Facebook. Just Facebook, yeah.
Oh.
Depending on how the interview goes, maybe we'll repackage it.
Oh, okay.
Our Facebook audience has been weighing in on this as well. Evangelos asks, what celebrity meeting of yours was the most surreal? What about that, Andy?
I would like to say, Evangelos, this one was very, very surreal. I was in a harness on stage at Radio City, crawling on the floor. And there have been many, and we talk about them on tour. And you always say I have more awkward encounters with celebrities than you know. But I mean, I'm going to say this is at the top of the list.
Was there, when you got off the stage, did you feel like you had gone too far? Did you feel like you needed to look at the video before deciding if you had gone too far? Or did you feel like you played it exactly right?
I did not go too far. I did what I was meant to do. They were like, get on the floor and crawl. Oh. I bowed to her. I know. I think I did perfect, actually.
Okay. Stephen wants to know what...
By the way...
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
When after she said give it up to him, she then said, ooh, my ears, he's so loud. That's what she said to the crowd. Now, I had not said anything. I hadn't opened my mouth. I was mouthing to her, I love you, I love you. So her saying he's so loud made me think she does know who I am, because I am, in fact, very overmodulated, as you've pointed out before.
Right, unless it was somebody talking into her ear saying, that's Andy Cohen, and maybe that was a signal really, she was like, oh, the person in my ear is too loud. Just throwing that out. I don't know, that just came to my mind. Stephen wants to know, what's your secret to staying so positive, energetic, at least publicly? I will tell you, Stephen, privately, he is as positive and energetic, and I would like to know the answer to this too, because I wish I was more like him in this regard. What's the secret, Andy Cohen?
I think my resting mood is always happy until I'm told that I should be something else, or there is something to kind of piss me off or bum me out. But I was raised in St. Louis, very nice upbringing, and I just always was very happy. It does annoy a lot of my friends that I am generally so happy. And Moody McCooper over here is, not so. But I will say that the version of Anderson on stage with me doing AC2 is like the best. Put a camera in front of him and he's usually pretty happy.
And we're going to be in, Las Vegas, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia coming up, L.A., San Francisco. So ac2live.com. I know Andy wants to plug that.
So excited about.
Yes. You started to mention this. Judy asked, how did you get your start? Where did you go to college? What's your degree? I know you're from St. Louis. How often does he get to visit family and friends there? So there's a lot of questions she wants to know. Tell us more about TV's Andy Cohen.
Oh, my God, Anderson. I got my start at CBS News. I went to college at Boston University. I majored in broadcast journalism, worked at CBS News for 10 years, worked for a small cable channel in the year 2000 that really taught me all for Barry Diller, and that taught me a lot of what I know today about various aspects of running a cable channel. And then I was at Bravo in charge of programming for 10 years, and somewhere along the way, they put me in front of the camera, and so you can blame them for that. And here I am. When the Housewives franchise started, I'll say my hair was black. So not anymore. I
know the feeling. I want to move on, but hang on a second. Andy, if you've been watching the program, you'll know it's time for the 180, and I know Andy watches every day, where I let viewers take the reins and talk about what's on their minds. But today, I'm going to share the love, or maybe the burden, with Andy. Here's what people want to know about us. Susie T asks, do you and Andy get along as good off camera as well as on? And who picks up the check normally when you go out to dinner? That's a good question. We do. We get along incredibly well. I don't think we've ever had like a real fight other than the time you lost my luggage. And I was
That is true.
I was just silent.
Shut up. Yes, you were. And I was scared.
And I think we divide the check pretty evenly. I mean, I'll pay one time, you pay another time. I don't feel like there's a disparity.
Never the check, but just one of us will pick. And we have not had fights, and we're constantly texting each other, and we get along pretty well.
Yeah. Susie B wants to know, Anderson and Andy, how do you see yourself and your friendship when you're 80 years old? Wow, I haven't really thought about that. How do you see it, Andy?
we're going to be doing this vaudeville act in real small theaters because there's not going to be people around that know who we are. And as a matter of fact, we might just be doing it for ourselves.
We'll be doing it like in the Burt Reynolds Dinner Theater in Ronkonkoma. Not that I don't even know there is one there. But Andy, thank you very much. It's great to have you on. I appreciate it. You can watch Andy, of course, every night on Watch What Happens Live on Bravo and on the reunion shows.
I'll see you on 360 tonight. This is your top story, right? Me and Britney?
Yeah, that's the top story. Yes.
Oh my God, we didn't talk about you, Madonna. You got pulled up with Madonna. And
That's not important. That's not important. We'll talk about that on tour, maybe. ac2live.com for info about our tour. Andy, thanks very much. That does it, at least for me. Thanks so much for joining us. If you like what you saw, there's more where this came from, just a few taps away on our Facebook page, Anderson Cooper Full Circle. You can get reminders and notifications for the program. All it takes is a follow. Hope you join me again tomorrow on our page here, voting on the things you want to know about. We'll be back live with those at 6:25 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Until then, hope you tune into AC 360 tonight. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, one of Donald Trump's closest associates has been subpoenaed. And someone close to the case says that person, the guy who's been subpoenaed now, knows where all the financial bodies, so to speak, are buried. That's tonight at 8 p.m. AC 360. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.